Welcome to Rebecca Sounds Reveille. Woo, this show is going to be hot, hot, hot because we are going to give you some information today that is going to really impact your resources financially. This is something that I talk about here and there, but I don't necessarily really zero in or hone in on women in finance. So what's really exciting about my guest today, as she is the owner of Becker Retirement Group, and she is also the training company Life with Arwen. She has over 19 years experience in retirement planning and as a fiduciary. This is pretty exciting. There's lots to talk about today. She's met with thousands of women over the years. She does speaking, videos, all kinds of stuff. What is powerful about this is it really impacts the way women are treated in the area of finance. And she does it through radio, podcasts, books, and 30 plus women only event type of things every year. I want her to share some of the strategies that you can use today, as well as other insight that she alone shares with women across the nation and globally. So welcome today, owner, financial advisor, author, national speaker of Becker Retirement Group. Welcome, Arwen Becker.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Rebecca.
I am absolutely delighted because what sets you apart from a lot of financial advisors that do come on the show is you have a mission to impact women in finances. How that helps a lot of the topics that come to the table here is we talk to people who are victims of domestic violence, and the majority of them are women who don't necessarily know what to do financially because they've been dependent on someone, and here they have a situation. But in the whole entirety of womanhood, there's a lot for us to learn, and you are the expert.
Yes, that's true. That's there's so much that we could talk about, certainly as it relates to women in finance. I think just the really quick background of how I found myself here is I was divorced at 24 as a zoology graduate.
What?
What does that mean? So I have a zoology degree and I'm 24 and I'm divorced and I have no idea how to handle my finances. And I ended up going on a single job interview, got hired by a financial planning firm that was brand new. Well, that gentleman, now almost 20 years later, has been my business partner for all those years, but my husband for 15 years as of next week. So, you know, you never know how you get into things. But there I was 24 trying to figure out how to now pay my own bills because I had never had to do that. And yet going into working in the area of finance, I actually found that I really thoroughly enjoyed it. But what I found over all of those years as I saw my husband dealing with people and just growing up in this industry is there's a huge, huge need for women to be educated in the area of finance. And I will be the first one to raise my hand and say, I have really, for a lot of my life, relied on a man to take care of me. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Man is not a plan.
And you know what? As you were saying this, I'm envisioning how, I don't know, probably our generation grew up kind of having males in certain fields, doctors, CPAs, lawyers, police officers. We don't generally think of women being so studious and meticulous about numbers and things like that. So this is really awesome.
Yeah. And you know what, I think I kind of break the mold a little bit, to be honest with you, because I am a numbers girl. I did well in math. Math was a thing that I was good at, but I've kind of, from the beginning of this 20-year journey, I've still kind of kept my fingers in my ears like this going, la, la, la. I don't want to learn all the information because the way in which women are connected with is not through numbers and spreadsheets and big, huge PowerPoint presentations, right? That's what's really hindered a lot of women from getting the education that they need because they're bored to death of it, right?
Yes.
I know. And so nobody wants to do it. So they just go, leave it up to somebody else, whether it's my spouse or, just avoid it altogether or hire someone, but not really know what the heck is going on. Right. And so my calling and my focus is to inspire women to get educated, because that's the piece. I mean, we know we need to get educated. We know we need to have some form of planning, but we just don't want to be bored to death. So we just avoid it altogether. And that's where I'm setting out to make it different and to be able to connect women emotionally to the need. And then that will allow them to go, okay, I understand that I need to get educated. And so here's why. So just a handful of statistics that I think are just so important to understand. So 80% of men die married, which means 80% of women die single. Okay.
Ouch.
So that's a big deal, right? And let that one land. 80% of us will die single, right? So we're likely going to be the last woman standing. Okay. And so you have that, and then you have these other pieces where the average age that a woman is widowed is 59. That's young.
It is.
Young, right?
Wow.
I know. Gray divorce, the fastest growing segment of the population getting divorced are people who've been married longer than 25 years. That is devastating for women, because oftentimes what women do, they spend up to 15% of their years out of the workforce because they're either taking care of kids or they're taking care of parents, much more likely than their brothers to care for parents, right?
Bingo.
So you have that. What's that? I know, exactly. And so you have that, but then also, so then on the flip side, men will only spend about 1.6% of their working years not working. So for women, if they're spending all this time caring for the people that they love and cherish, right, because they feel it's the right thing to do, it means they're not putting money into their company plan all those years. They're not putting into Social Security. And when they do work, the likelihood of them receiving good wages has gone down dramatically because they've spent a lot of years not working, right? So you have all these things that are coming against us, but yet we're in an industry that still, like you kind of said, kind of speaks in this numbers, and it's, it's kind of more of this male brain way of thinking. And so a lot of women just kind of opt out. They just kind of bury their head in the sand and they don't get the education. And that's what I'm here to change.
This is really awesome because we are wired a little different. We're multitaskers. And I'm thinking about all the things against women, including when we do go into the workforce, it's very difficult for us to save money because we're spending it on different type of expenses for the children. So it isn't a savings kind of thing. We are known as givers, and boy, do we give it all, including our money.
True? It's like giving the seed and the harvest. We'll give the harvest, we'll give the seed, and then we're left going, wait a second, I don't want to be a burden on my kids, but then what are you left with? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so we don't want to be a burden, but yet we are so generous by nature, which is the part of this. It so just infuriates me, is because I hear all the time, I kind of get this proverbial pat on the head of like, oh, isn't it great you're doing those women's events? What a great niche. And it's like, excuse me, women make up more of the U.S. population than men do. This is not a niche. This is a need, a tremendous need. And then you have this way of talking to them, which just either goes over their heads or, again, bores them to death. And they're just like, I'm not going to be handling all of this. And so that's really where we need to come together and say, well, how can we educate and make sure that we're getting the feedback that we need? Because what you also said too, just about how busy and women giving what they have is, there's also kind of this underlying tone I've heard a lot of times from male and female advisors of like, well, women are flaky. So I don't know about this whole thing of doing, I know it pisses me off.
Oh my goodness.
And why do they say that? Because women are busy. They're busy doing what matters. They're busy taking care of kids. They're taking care of their parents. They're figuring out what needs to happen. And the idea of dealing with their finances doesn't seem like the highest priority. And so it gets put on a back burner or it gets assigned to a spouse who will likely pass away before they do. And then they're still now facing, oh God, now I'm emotionally hurting. And now I have to try and now figure out my finances. So that's why I say, I don't care if you're married, if you're not, you have sole responsibility of your own financial picture, because you're going to be the one handling it most likely at any point that you look in your life. Some point in there, you're going to be the one responsible, and you better know how it works and that you're going to be cared for. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. And I think that what you just said was well stated and really needing to be heard, grasped, sunk in, and ready to make changes, because you're absolutely right. And we don't really think about that. The fact that you identified this and said, I'm going to address this and help fulfill the needs so that it's not there anymore. And this empowers not only the woman who needs the assistance in the financial area, but the ripple effect, because we do care for everybody else.
That's right.
Be able to do more for other people.
Yep.
And it's a really good lake we have. It's not, I mean, we're just not skipping stones anymore. We can actually sink some things in and create major waves that are really positive.
Yeah. Well, because women hold more wealth in the country now than men do. And what's so crazy, and this is why why I have my training company, Life with Arwen, to train other female advisors to do women's events, because $30 trillion in the next 30 years is going to be transferred from the baby boomers to their kids. That's a trillion with a T, right? Huge amount. Texas can't even handle that amount of money. Right?
Yeah, they say everything's big in Texas, but wow.
But if $30 trillion is going, and they're estimating 2/3 of that going to women in the next 20 to 30 years, why in the world, as an industry as a whole, the financial industry, why wouldn't women be the number one focus, instead of kind of this afterthought of, well, we'll get around to it, instead of going, no. Women in communities, when women have money and are financially empowered, you've already hit on it. They are generous. They will give to the people that they love. That's why in third world countries, that's why they empower women and give women small business loans, because they feed it back into the community. But when a woman isn't educated, she can't pass that on to her kids or her grandkids. And it just is this generational curse that continues to perpetuate. But the same can be reversed. If we're empowered and understanding our finances, then we can help the generation coming up, behind us, to know, how do I start and take care of this piece that will be a part of my entire existence on this earth? How do I pay for things? Where does my money come from? My safety and security and freedom and all the other things that come along with it. But again, men and women, they see it very differently. And so it's about, how do you take how an industry has been doing it for so long and empower women to go, I can do this. I'm capable. I am able. And I don't have to be bored to death figuring it out.
So I'm pretty excited about this. And my next question for you is going to be twofold, because with your company, you do training. So do you not only train individuals to address their own finances, but do you also train women to be financial advisors?
Yeah, so I have, officially I have 3 companies. So I have Becker Retirement Group, I have Becker Wealth Advisory, that's my wealth advisory division, and then I have Life with Arwen. So really, Becker Retirement Group is the holistic planning piece of retirement planning. So that's that's our company that owned by my husband and I, that we work with individuals. So we have multiple offices, we have advisors who work for us, and then we serve our community. It's about, couples, singles, divorced, widowed, never married, whatever it might be, and empowering them in the area of retirement planning. So 50 and above, right? So that's one piece of it. But as I transitioned our company over the last 3 years, my husband's been doing public seminars for years and years and years. But as I transitioned and I started to see this need for women's events, I started giving those about 3 years ago. Well, it was so well attended. I mean, just this week, I had 2 full events. I mean, full to the brim events. It was so awesome. But what I saw was, there were so many women who received all of these same mailers to come to a dinner and learn about finances, that kind of stuff. Bright women, well-educated, breadwinners for their household, yet they still didn't come to a financial seminar because there was something that was impeding their, I don't know, maybe they felt either subconscious or consciously, I don't really want to sit next to a married man with his wife and he's going to tell me how smart he is. These are just the things that I hear.
Okay.
And so when they finally got an invitation, whether it be Facebook or a mailer or something like that, and they got something that said women's only, it wasn't that it was going to be presented by women, because I have some male friends that do these events too, and just absolutely hit it out of the park. But when they saw that it just said women only on it, that they knew that there was going to be a safety at that table of sitting next to another woman, and then women are communal beings, right? And so there's just this camaraderie and this community that begins to happen. And so we saw that, and it was just like, wow, this is really powerful. And so what we did as a company is we began to pivot to where we used to do a lot of just open events to everybody. And I started doing more and more of these women's events to where now we're doing 80% of our events are women's only.
Ooh, that's a large number.
Huge. Mm-hmm. And yet there's still a lot of people who just kind of go, women's events, I don't know. It just seems a little bit whatever, foo-foo, or I just don't like women that much or whatever. That's just like
right.
You know, too emotional or something. I'm like, oh my gosh, they are the funnest freaking events. Because women engage. They're like best friends before I even take stage, and they're talking and they're laughing. And just last night, dinners were done, glasses of wine had been drunk, and they were all sitting there with their water, and more than 80% of my room was still there, and most of them didn't know anybody when they came in. But they're just talking and making friends, exchanging cards, and hey, I made a new friend, and I'm going out, and that's what happens with women. And so we just saw that as such a need for the community, and that's what Becker Retirement Group now focuses on, that piece. So I guess it's kind of a long answer to a short question. And then what Life with Arwen is training other female advisors around the country to do those events, because there are enough nuances that you can't just run it through the same filter and expect to get the same results, because you need to treat women differently.
Right.
We're different. Don't kill me with the PowerPoint. Connect with me. Tell me how I'll be okay. Tell me, the basics of understanding, my whole picture, but not in a way that starts to lose the audience because you're going into too much detail. That's not what we need. We just need to know that we'll be able to understand it, have an aha moment, give me the details if I want them, but the rest of the time, just let me know I'm going to be okay. How do I know the answer to that question? And that's really what Life with Arwen is, to help train advisors to be able to adequately express that message to so many people in their community who are not getting reached because they just don't feel confident going to a seminar that has men in the room.
I love it. It.
It's kind of fun.
Well, no, you said something that's really crucial, though, because we live in a world of non-safe places. Everything is now a susceptibility of something. We're seeing a lot of really hate-related crimes on the rise. There's just a lot of things. So I think what you said is really important, because you said they feel safe. They know that they're going to a safe location. And what's really neat when women get together is we all know we multitask. So there's no offense or feeling like you're obligated to have direct eye contact at every second because you're wanting to engage with all these different things. We all get it, and we can bring them in and do and carry this momentum because of all of these things that we take in and how we're wired. It's really, really neat that you mentioned that, because we fail to think about that, but that is something behaviorally we do.
Yeah. And one of the other things behaviorally that we see also is that one of the significant differences between how men and women how they think. So one of the questions that I ask at the seminar is, what does money mean to you? When you have money in your hands or in your bank account and you've saved money, what does money mean to you? And when I ask that to a room full of women only, the answers are always the same: security, freedom, choice, not being a burden on my kids. You know, they're all of these things that are emotionally tied to they're an intangible. There's something that's just like to the core of who I am. This is what matters to me. It's not, I want to boat, I want to golf all day, I want to travel, which they do. They want to do those things because I sit down with them. They want to travel, but that's not what women first gravitate towards.
Right.
But men think very differently. They're very goal oriented. So if I have the moment that I throw men into the room and ask the same question, I do get the travel, you know, boat, RV, golf, you know, those kind of things, which are not bad. But it just goes to show you how differently a woman thinks versus how a man thinks. And so for women to understand, well, what's the value I have, and then making my financial decisions based around that, but especially for couples, because I always say, you know, I figure you want to stay married. That's what we're trying to do, right? We don't want to have you part of this gray divorce statistic, right? But money is the main reason that people divorce. So why is that? And it's because women think values. They think in this term of this intangible, what speaks to the core of who I am, whereas men think of more of a tangible, right? And so how do we get both of them on the same page so when money decisions are now needing to be made, they align with the value that both spouses have and they have talked about, but a lot of people just haven't drilled in on what that is. So it's really important, especially for men, to sit down and go, well, what does money mean to me? That's not this tangible piece, right? What is it? Is it security? Which for a lot of men, they want security. They don't want to have to, drain their assets, because they have to go into a nursing home and leave their wife destitute. But sadly, because of improper planning, that happens all the time. I mean, 80% of women on Social Security, widowed women, live below the poverty line. And the saddest part,
that is almost a mind-blowing statement when you really think of the gravity of what you just said.
And the worst part, the part that even makes it even heavier, is that most of them didn't when their spouse was living. Because what happens is he gets sick. He drains the assets because, of course, she would take care of him, right? She would want to make sure he got care, drains the assets, and now she could easily be living another 10 years, maybe need care. 7 out of 10 of us will. And what is she left with? And that's why I would say, and it's a joke, it's somewhat of tongue in cheek, man is not a plan. Nobody is, because you want a button, you want a really big button that says,
that's really good.
But it is true. I mean, you can't rely on that, because chances are, if you are married, your spouse is going to pass away before you do. So if they're the one that kind of thinks that they know the plan, you're going to be the one who really finds out whether or not it worked or not. And by that point, he's already passed away.
You have a good point, though, in that how much we do and how much we are, the anchor to so many different things. So if we're not thinking financially about the anchor for down the road, we are going to be lost. And that's obviously what has happened, and why you have found a way to fulfill a need that is so almost desperate from the way, and it's unfortunate because, like you said, being educated, that's all it takes to make the difference. Because once we're educated, we have the power to make the changes that will lead us in the right direction.
That's right.
Wow, this is just so neat.
So true.
I want to know too about your book, because the audience will need to get a copy, definitely. And it'll allow them to be able to start, really bringing in this idea, and then hopefully get to one of your seminars or get more involved where they say, you know what, I could do financial planning.
Yeah. So it's going through compliance right now. We've been throwing around the title that's feeling right kind of right now is She Handled It, and So Will You. Because it's really based around my mom, and my mom just taking the reins, helping my sister and I, because really a dad and a stepdad could not provide for my family financially. And so my mom handmade all of our clothes. She worked a job as a lunch lady. She hated it, but she did it so she got benefits, and she was home when my sister and I were home, and just did all these things to sacrifice to make sure that we were cared for. And now, as I'm seeing her approaching retirement, she could officially retire right now. She's still kind of deciding whether or not, she's ready to do that from Costco. But seeing how she has gone from, less than zero and food stamps when I was a kid to now a woman who will very much be able to retire comfortably and do what it is that she wants to do. And so the book is really, it's based a lot around my upbringing and what that was like, the mistakes that I made, and trusting that a man would care for me financially, and how that imploded on me when I was 24. But then I had obviously time to make the changes and turn the ship and go forth and learn new things. But really the book is, I'm so excited. So it is, it's based on retirement planning. It's written really for people about 45 and above, but it's all written in story. And that's the way I teach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you might be hearing about market. I'm going to talk about market risk and how that affects people, but I'm going to tell you in this story about me getting attacked by a 110-pound cougar. So that's way more exciting than me telling you about market risk.
It is.
It's a boring way. So that's what's so great about this book, because the way I teach at my seminars is the same way. It's teaching concepts, but it's in a way in which a woman, that's how women communicate. We talk about stories, and we share things, and it's men do, women talk. You know what I'm saying?
That's
true. So it's really exciting. And as I said, it's just through its first round of edits, and it'll be available on Amazon and all the places you'll be able to get books. But for right now, that is the working title, but certainly there's no Arwen Becker in the world. So when you finally type that in, you'll get that. You'll find me.
This is perfect. So let me ask you, with what we've talked about, I know that this is really radiating and emanating to so many people what you have said, and how much they need to get on board with making some changes, because it's going to be easier. And it's going to be something that is exciting instead of boring and blah and black and white. So
women deal in color.
We do. It's like, can you splash some, besides red? Because I know that's like in finances, that's like not a good thing, and I want to wear my red lipstick, and that's not going to work here. But can we put some purple or
yes.
Crazy? Give me some splash and make me feel, like you said, because we're emotions, make me feel like this is making a difference. Because sometimes looking at it, you're like, ugh. But I know this is radiating, and I know it's emanating across to the viewers and the listeners, and I want them to make sure to know where you would like them to go for each of the segments that you have in your business, and then how they can stay tuned for your book.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, our retirement planning firm is Becker Retirement Group. So you can go to beckerretirement.com, and we have, certainly anybody who's local in the Pacific Northwest, we have a lot of events. I give 38 events a year. And then as it continues with this new company, well, actually, let me go back with Becker Retirement Group, for any clients that actually work or that live outside of the state, we have many, many people, because it does rain a lot in the Seattle area. So we do have a lot of snowbirds, or people who finally decide to relocate down into a less expensive area, whether that be Arizona or Nevada or different areas, or move to Florida, whatever that might be. So working remotely is always an option as well, but you can contact us through our website there. And then Life with Arwen. So the website it's under construction, has about another week to go. They're putting the final touches on it. But my Facebook page, Life with Arwen, you can go there and you can really see what it is that we're trying to do as it relates to changing the industry and how the industry speaks to women, and seeing them as the value that all women are from the beginning, not as this afterthought. And that's really the goal of what we're trying to accomplish, is making sure that women in all communities, especially those that are never married, widowed, divorced, often feel a little bit left out, and that's to put it politely. A lot of them say, I've been talked over, I've been talked down to, I feel dumb. And that just is not okay. It's about a standard of care. And that's what it is that we're trying to do with this company, Life with Arwen, is create a standard of care that the industry recognizes, but then also make sure that there are advocates and people, influencers in the communities that are reaching those women, that kind of vein in the marble that are there, that are valuable, but for whatever reason, they just feel not, they're too intimidated to walk in the room that has a bunch of men in it. And so we want to change that. We want to make sure that we're reaching all those amazing women in all the communities across the nation and get them the education they need so they can change their communities from the ground up.
I love this. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You're doing, the empowerment, for you being here today. I absolutely love this.
Thank you so much for having me, Rebecca. I appreciate it.
And I will definitely be having you back on the show to talk more about things that you're doing, especially when your book hits. We're ready for it. Yes,
Would love it.
Yes. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to another episode of Rebecca Sounds Reveille. This is something that I know has really hit somewhere inside of you. I know you're ready to just get some more information, even if it's just sort of the tip of the iceberg right now. Definitely go and see all of the different options that are available on Facebook with Arwen Becker. You need to Google her. You're going to find her all over the place. Get directed to all the right different things that we talked about today, and get on board, because the quality of your life can change. Make sure you share this with your friends, your family, your colleagues, those you know, and those you don't.